several ciphers.
Murdered in Dallas, Texas. He was shot by a sniper hiding in a building near his...
Holy fuck!
A bizarre flash occurs, and the plane has vanished. Upon
WEF is an organization.
Bro, this is really good.
Yeah, it's way better than the original.
It's way better than
Fly away, Houston. Vector good. Bye-bye, fly.
All right, welcome back, connectors. This is Connect the Dots, where we break it down, piece it together, and make sense of it all. So, let's dive in. I was recently talking to my brother-in-law, who happens to be of the native
persuasion.
you know, and he had some pretty crazy stories, and so it made me want to do some digging.
Native to what?
Native
Geographic
to
location?
America.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you lean hard left, it's First Nations people. If you watched Peter Pan,
Oh, geez. Okay.
you,
We're going. There's two.
Yeah, there's
two
two
ends of the
different-
spectrum.
You guys ready for this?
two different.
What makes the red man red? Holly Wolly Gum Gum, Holly Wolly Gum Gum.
Wow.
That's from Peter Pan, the
I
Disney
know.
version.
I'm taken aback.
Yeah. But
Travis
anyway,
is a little bit offended. That's okay. That's okay. He'll get over it.
I was just quoting Disney.
Yeah.
Do you guys know about Disney?
I've heard of
We'll
Disney.
put a disclaimer up at the beginning of our video, like Disney does.
Sorry for
Kinda like, yeah.
Some of these things may
When you go to
culturally
watch it.
insensitive.
That clip's gonna get me toasted.
Yeah, we'll blur your face
Yeah, and
and do like a
They
voiceover.
just blur the face for that section.
at that point,
And then it
Fielding and Travis are gonna show up, and me and Daniel are gonna be the ones setting up the lights. We need this. Let's go.
All right. So I have some interesting things that I wanted to share with you guys. Okay. First things first. Did you know
Oh my gosh.
that there are obviously tons of different types of tribes, right? In old America.
Yeah, and they
right?
all got along really well.
They all got along. They did have horses. I don't care what anybody else says.
That's been proven, right?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it has been proven.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot of different crazy stories when it comes to Native Americans. So I'm gonna jump into some of this here really quick. So the Hopi tribe, okay, the Hopi tribe they mainly stayed around the Arizona area. In fact, I actually even have a map that I'll pull up, and I want to pull it up for you guys though too, so that you guys can see.
Shout
it.
out to Cowboys versus Aliens.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
yeah.
So let's run this
Such a
topic.
great,
It's such a
such a great show. Hold on, sorry
I wonder
guys,
if
I'm
it's
trying to
available
find it
anywhere.
here.
Why are you trying to
really
find
quick.
this? Do we know where that could be found to be watched?
I will tell you.
Where'd it go? I think I have it on my
IMDb will tell
phone. Sorry guys, time out. This is my fault. Oh, it
By
is
the
on
way,
my phone. I'm
Phil,
gonna airdrop it to my.
I'm only talking because Daniel is currently doing something. Where is the next season of that one whack sci-fi show that you had us watch on HBO Max?
Oh, are you
Which
talking
one?
about the
It has,
Raised by Wolves?
Yeah, Raised by
Raised
Wolves.
by Wolves was
Bro.
so sick.
Oh, I was thinking
after
about it.
season 2, it got canceled, but it was so.
Have you seen it?
I've seen clips.
Bro,
It
is I wouldn't call it like good like you think like Sopranos or something. It's good like
No.
you've
No,
never seen
it's
anything.
good if you like religion, sci-fi, tech, and like
Robots.
out there
is this a
theories.
tangent?
Yes.
Yes, but Daniel's looking up something.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fine.
no.
Just
This
doing
one's okay.
research.
This one's okay.
Anyway, Google Play, Amazon,
it reminds
Apple
me of-
TV, Fandango at home for Cowboys versus
That's for
Aliens.
Cowboys versus
Basically
Aliens.
anywhere movies are sold.
Oh,
Is it
but I was
anywhere
talking about
free?
for free.
Oh, for free.
Yeah.
I'll check. IMDb will
Interesting.
tell you like where you can stream it for free.
But the reason I
What?
bring that
Really?
up is that
Tubi, probably.
the native thing reminds me. That movie reminded me of that because those people. At first, it's like obviously not. It's I'm a robot. You're little kids.
Right.
it's not anywhere
But
free.
then pretty soon there's enough people and all these legends start interspersing and it gets really messed up and it's like it really did a good job illustrating how that could happen, right? How
Yeah.
it's like truth can be obscured in these weird stories, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
Like the chariots of the gods.
Yeah.
That was so obvious to me now.
Yeah.
So obvious.
So cool.
Anyway.
That was a really good series. Okay, so get this. So the Hopi Indians, and I'm just gonna use Indians. So sorry. So this is a map of all the different tribes that we're gonna talk about, and I'll keep bringing up kind of the areas that they're in.
Okay.
So the Hopi Indians basically were in kind of the Washington, Idaho area of the United States. Okay, and all these different tribes we're going to talk about, there is a common similarity between. So
this stuff.
pay attention,
Yeah.
and we're going to go through it.
Okay.
Okay. So the Hopi Indians, they believed in what's called the and I'm probably going to pronounce a lot of this wrong.
Daniel, can I do a point of order? That's what I thought. You have Arizona next to Hopi. And that's what I thought. Weren't they the ones that were down in like Grand Canyon area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No, I think you're right. I think ChatGPT gave me a crappy map. Hold
I
on.
think that could have happened. I just wanted to correct
no.
that. So
Let's
we
do
don't
that.
look
No,
silly.
I appreciate that. Let me. I'm
'Cause I
gonna
was
pull
like,
up-
I thought the whole because me and Dallin are from the Pacific Northwest, and we did not hear of who the Zuni are.
Or the Wasco tribes.
Okay. All right, hold on. Map of North
we are.
America.
So it showed ChatGPT either showed us the true history,
Oh,
not what's being fed to us.
okay.
Okay, here we go.
Or
This is
got it
going to
wrong.
be probably a more accurate map.
Remember the Chinook?
Oh,
Indians?
The
that's
Chinook
way
Indians.
complex.
You had the Saskatchewan Indians.
Okay, we're just
Yeah.
gonna.
the
I'll
Nez,
find a map
the Nez
later.
Purse.
He'd insert it
Remember
later.
them?
Yeah,
The
we'll just insert
Yakima?
later.
The Yakima.
I told ChatGPT to make me a map based on. Yeah. Okay.
Umpqua.
All right. Whatever.
Nootka.
Okay, so the Hopi Indians. That's wrong. And,
Tillamook.
Give me some of that cheese. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. Okay, starting over. Cut. I love that we can edit it and we're not doing this live. Okay. Have you guys heard of the Hopi Indians?
Yes.
Yes.
Based in Arizona, or around the Arizona Grand Canyon area. Okay. They believed in what's called the, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Kachinas, which were spiritual entities who descended from the sky to teach and guide, often depicted with helmets and goggles. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
Come on.
They also believed in what they called the Ant People. They were their ancestors were rescued by these ant people by taking them underground during world catastrophes, described as thin-limbed, large-head beings similar to gray aliens, is how they
The
describe them.
ant people.
And that's
Ant
where like
people.
those hieroglyphs come from that like has star systems that we like have only recently like uncovered.
Right.
And
right.
they were like these star people were apparently from that.
Petroglyphs.
Yeah. Yeah,
see it,
exactly.
Alan?
It's actually pretty cool. It reminds me of.
Yeah, I think I called it the wrong
Fifth
thing,
Element.
but that's it.
It does remind me of Fifth Element.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Aziz.
There's so much evidence.
Lights.
There's
Okay.
so much. Once you see it, like it's so hard. It's so many other things connect through
Yeah.
what our history
Okay.
is more likely.
So that was the Hopi. Okay. And there's actual stories. We're not going to have enough time to dive into each individual story, but you'll see a theme here. Now,
Maybe we can dig in later and do
Yeah.
an episode on each
Yeah.
of the tribes.
comment if you want us to dive into any specific story here, because there is like deep lore and legends that are in each one of these tribes. Okay. The next one, Zunis, they were based in New Mexico. Okay. And they believed in what's called the Shalako, which I probably just forgive me, guys. They were towering sky messengers who descended during solstice, interpreted by some as ancient extraterrestrial figures. They also believed in what's called the sky realms. Cosmology includes otherworldly visitors and interdimensional travel. Okay, and I believe the Zuni, you guys can fact check me. It could be one of these other tribes, but I heard that there's a legend, and I believe it's from the Zuni tribe. When they talk about interdimensional travel, they have a legend that talks about how one of their tribe chiefs ended up meeting with these people, and they took them into an interdimension, but it was into the earth. Like they pulled him into like inside the earth, and it was like there was like this hole, and he ended up coming back and talking about how there's 5 different realms within the earth, and how he traveled in between all of them. It's kind of crazy. Crazy story.
They had a word for upper worlds in Zuni.
Okay.
They made a word for it.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
that is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, now the next one, the Lakota Sioux.
Like different degrees of glory almost.
Almost.
It's almost
One could say.
Maybe there was only 3, and they accidentally got the number wrong.
Lost in
I
translation.
mean, maybe they're counting Outer Darkness.
Worlds without end.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Many kingdoms.
Maybe. The Lakota Sioux, which they were located in the Great Plains, they believed in the Thunderbirds, which were massive birds capable of generating thunder and lightning. Some consider them to be a flying craft. Okay. They also believed in the Star People, which were ancestors from the Palladius star system who continue to observe humanity. Okay. There was the Navajo, which they were located in the southwestern part of the United States. They believed in the Holy People, which were described as celestial beings who arrived in flying logs or vessels. They also believe in the Skinwalkers, which we're only going to say that once because every time you say it, they get closer.
Yep.
Though focused, don't say it, Travis. Though focused on shape-shifting, sometimes linked to interdimensional beings. Okay, there's the Cherokee in the southeastern part of the United States. They believed in the Uktena, which is a horned serpent with glowing scales and hypnotic powers, possible a reptilian entity. They also believed in they called the Little People, small sky descending beings associated with abductions, and sky visitors who they have stories of luminous beings from above. Okay, there's the Iroquois, Northwest United States and Canada. They believed in the sky woman or women fell from the upper world to form Turtle Island, North America, and that these sky people are beings of a higher knowledge from celestial realms. There's the Inuit in the Arctic regions. They believed in aura beings, glowing spirits descending during auroras, flying kayaks, and shamanic travel. Suggests contact with a non-human intelligence. There's the Cree in Canada. They believed and made documents or documented sky canoes, vehicles that would travel across the stars, and star beings that were tall, glowing entities from Palladius or Orion communicating telepathically. There's the Blackfeet, which are in Montana and Canada. They believed in sky people, shared ceremonial knowledge and protection. They had star ancestors believed to reside in Palladius, linked to dreams and metaphysical travel. And then there's also the Yokoi and Tarahumara, which are in southwestern United States and Mexico. They believed in desert light beings, appeared during rituals in glowing orbs, reptilian entities, flying serpent gods, and humanoid cave depictions. Or they have humanoid cave depictions, and then spirit journeys, contact with tall, pale beings from sky worlds. So that's 10 different tribes with very, very similar.
Back when there wasn't internet or
I was
TVs
just
or
gonna
even
say.
like letters where they were
Yeah, and you think
like
about
traveling around.
They had
Yeah.
social media, so it was easy for them to align all these stories.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Yeah, exactly. And they all were in communication, right? Guys in Mexico and the Antarctic and Canada and north and south and east, western, all these different areas in the United States. there's obviously some kind of connection between all these tribes and consistent communication and contact with these beings. Okay?
Somebody's coming down in a craft
In
of
almost
some
every one of
sorts.
them, right? A sky canoe.
Yeah,
What
and
else would you call it? It's,
Yeah, if that's all you knew.
If they came now, we call them UFOs as we have a word for it, but we might.
We'd call it
it's like a car
a
or a
craft
plane
or something.
Yeah.
Right, and if you think about it, it's like the only vehicle that they would have had would have been a canoe.
Yeah.
It's the only thing they could have got in and
Yeah.
traveled in. So it's like, of course, that's how you're gonna
And then they describe it as like thunder and lightning because they didn't have like flames and
They
things.
didn't have speakers.
Yeah.
They didn't have things that. Yeah, of course.
But it's interesting that every one of them, like something is coming down and like teaching them,
Yeah, giving knowledge.
giving knowledge. Yeah.
If you remember too, I don't want to like go too off the rails, but that's what we believe in our church.
Yeah.
That Adam and Eve are down. They're in the lone and dreary world, right?
Yeah.
And God sends down people to teach them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
then
this isn't-
Moroni comes to see Joseph Smith.
This portion isn't what we believe, but this is the doctrine according to Fielding.
Uh-oh.
And then
I
you
love
have
these.
the serpent that beguiles Eve.
Yeah.
And then they talk about like
The serpent is a
the
different
reptilians that come down and
I never thought of that.
persuade.
So
Again,
that-
that's not what the church believes. That's what
Yeah,
I
the church does not
I
believe
subscribe to that one. That the serpent that beguiled her was just like a reptilian.
And then when they ask, like, what do you do? That's just what other people have done.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he's so mad when he gets cast out because he's like, "We've done this 100 times. Like, why is it this time now? I'm permanently banned from everything.
It's not fair.
It's not fair, Dad."
Yeah.
That's
That is-
garbage.
I've never thought of that before.
Well, and then there's another interesting connection too that I think of when you're talking about all these different tribes and stuff. And I have another list that we're going to go through here in just a second. Okay, but there's
It's a pretty
another
good one.
It's amazing.
Again,
know.
gospel according to Fielding, not.
I don't think it's true per se, but
Yeah.
it's not.
It's not true.
Dallon's going to bear his testimony in sacrament about this.
Dude,
I'm really excited.
You know how like when you're standing on the beach and like the waves go over it and your feet start to sink in the sand?
Yeah.
That's how I felt just now.
The truth hits hard.
My foundation was like rocked.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
it kind of makes more sense than like
A snake.
boa constrictor.
Yeah.
Slithers over and instead it's like,
Like, hey there.
no, it's a thing that can speak and tempt.
It's Voldemort.
Yeah.
Voldemort.
That's what I thought about.
Well, that Hal Puthoff guy on Joe Rogan. There's 4 types of aliens.
Okay.
You would probably know them, Philip. One's reptilian.
Yeah.
The Nordics,
The Grays.
the Greys, and
the whites.
there's a 4th one.
No, the
he said.
Nordics are the whites.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
But like that's like his group would go and like could go remote see them.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like confirmed by him.
Well, there's like different tribes that live inside the earth apparently that they have
I don't know
different
about the
like
living inside the earth.
garments
Okay.
and things.
All right. Hold on.
Okay.
That was a perfect segue. But
Okay.
before you get to that, I want to say there's another connection
Tall
here.
whites
Yeah, they're
is
tall
the
whites.
4th. That's the different, separate from the Nordics. Just wanted to say. Okay.
Separate from the Nordics? And what did the Nordics look like?
They are
Off-white.
6 to 7 feet, but the
Off-white?
tall whites are 7 to 9 feet.
Bone.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, learn something new every day.
At least that's ChatGPT. Who knows? Maybe they're wrong.
Well, so get this. This is another connection that's religious in nature. When you go into the Apocrypha,
It's kind of blowing my mind.
I know.
okay, and you start getting into like the Book of Moses and all the other, Apocrypha, non-canon scripture. When you get in there, it talks about the fallen angels.
Yeah.
And how they came down to earth and started teaching and giving knowledge to man, which they weren't supposed to do. And then as punishment, God like casts them out. And then what ends up happening? Well, then they start getting attracted to the earthly women, and then they start breeding, and now you have, the Nephilim, and the Nephilim are these like big giants, David and Goliath, like all this stuff. And then I don't know. It just, there's so much that like connects to
the
all
way
this.
people are starting to talk about this stuff's weird too. You guys know who Tim Pool is?
Yeah, I know who Tim Pool is.
So he's a pretty mainstream guy. Like he has like a White House press
Mm-hmm.
pass. I mean, he's kind of an oddball because he used to be a liberal. He's a skater. Now he's conservative. And this is this unique world we live in with like who the press are. But you would consider him what's maybe now mainstream, right? Right wing, but mainstream. Well, I listened to him, and then all of a sudden I hear him talking about. He has a guy on there that's like, yeah, the Nephilim are real, and they were attracted to him, and they were so close, so that I think they're angels, and the angels are like us enough to where they could breed with each other. And I'm just going, this is weird. And on the same episode in the podcast, he also has like a senator.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Well, there's that-
the way people are talking about this kind of maybe fringy conspiracy stuff, it's just different now.
It's definitely crazy, but those emails that were leaked through WikiLeaks from Hillary Clinton, she says they found the tomb of Gilgamesh in Iraq, and that's one of the reasons they were going in.
That's real?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that they were going into Afghanistan, was they had found.
How do you go and be Hillary Clinton and still be such a loser? And like going out and pretending like you like ice cream and stuff on the campaign trail
because
when,
I think
when you know that they found the tomb of Gilgamesh.
Because I think the game that we're playing is not the game that we're actually playing.
If you don't think Satan is also promising things to people, you're crazy. The difference is he's not going to be able to follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But it's interesting, like,
That's a good point, but that's a real thing where, so in the WikiLeaks, I've heard about like the pizza and all that stuff, emails,
the
but
hot dogs and pizza, they're
I
yelling at Obama.
but the Gilgamesh one is wild.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one. That's the story where there was people that said that Iraqi soldiers and stuff that said that U.S. Special Forces came into that museum in Iraq, and they just blitzed in there and then like stole a bunch of Sumerian artifacts that the Iraqis had.
And then they blamed that it
museum.
was like damaged in like
airstrike or artillery or
but
something.
it was really like U.S. forces went in and took specific things.
Yeah.
That I think applied to
What
either
would-
the tomb or that time.
What would be the reason they would do that?
Well, you get into like Stargate technology and things like that.
That's
All
what.
right, we'll have to do that another time.
Yeah. Okay. So now I've got another list.
And Gilgamesh was Noah, right? That's kind of the thinking. He was in a flood. There's this flood story around him. Like,
No.
just for people listening who maybe haven't heard of Gilgamesh.
Yeah, Gilgamesh was like the original before
Gilgamesh,
Noah.
yeah.
He was Sumerian.
It's an older text, but Gilgamesh. Well, there's two trains of thought. There's those that believe that Noah and Gilgamesh are two completely different people. Because you have, I think there's something like 150 different cultures, groups of people that have flood myths, flood stories. And Gilgamesh and Noah happen to be two flood stories that come from the Middle East. But others believe that Gilgamesh is Noah. So
This is interesting. It says that when his friend died in Kidu, he went on a quest for immortality, but ultimately failed.
That's
kinda
what you would
interesting.
say if you found it.
You're like, hey guys, sorry.
Failed. Anyway,
I'm
I'm
out
going to a
here.
different town. Don't come looking for me.
Okay.
So I thought that was really weird that all these different Native American tribes all had
Well, Phil, you were telling me
experiences
about
with.
he's talking about Native Americans, but like the Indians, from India, they have the
Vimanas.
Vimanas.
These same. It reminds me very much of those stories
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
right?
That's because
Flying.
it's all over the world. Like,
Yeah. So then get this. This is where it gets even, I think it gets even more interesting.
All right.
Okay. So you have all these native tribes that have these stories, legends, experiences with sky people, reptilians, tall whites, the grays, all in different areas, etc. Well, you know what Native American tribes also have in common
What?
is interactions with underground beings and civilizations.
Dude, this
Okay.
one's such a stretch for me, but I'll tell you what. All of this stuff used to be a stretch.
Okay, so get this. We're going to go through this list just like we did the last one, okay? So, again, the Hopi, based in Arizona. They obviously talked about.
They seem to be one that's like really central. Is it just maybe because their records stone?
I'm gonna
you're
get.
talking about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna.
Like,
towards
they're
the end, I've
very
got a story.
Common.
A story I want to tell you guys. Okay, so the Hopi tribe in Arizona. Again, they talked about the ant people, how they would save the Hopi ancestors during world-ending cataclysms by sheltering them in vast underground caves. They are described as humanoid with insect-like features, highly intelligent and benevolent. And specifically, part of that legend is that's where that civilization, we've talked about this in a previous episode, where that guy found old Egyptian style
Like he went into
inside the Grand
cliff.
Canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's these guys, the Ant People. Okay. Then you have the Zuni in New Mexico. Their origin story describes their ancestors emerging from underground realms through portals called Sipapu. These dark and sacred underworlds were homes of spiritual guides before humans came to the surface. Then you have the Navajo in southwestern United States. Navajo cosmology speaks of migration through 4 worlds, beginning in an underworld realm. Holy people help the Navajo ascend upward through each level until they reach the surface. Then you have the Mandan in the Great Plains. The Mandan believed their ancestors lived underground until a sacred vine allowed them to climb to the Earth's surface. Some choose to say stay below, suggesting a continuing subterranean civilization. The Cherokee in southwestern United States, the Nunhai, or immortals, are mysterious beings who dwell in underground cities beneath the mountains. They are known to rescue and invite people to join them. Those who accept are never seen again.
That's where you have the theory of like people go missing in these like state parks, and then you also have these videos where people say they saw a door on the mountain or on the rock
open
that they then like they can't like prove it or show.
Yeah.
But if there's people that live on the inside, like you don't think they have ways to either seal it back up or like different things. But anyway, that goes into, I was just thinking about all the different videos of people.
I know there's so many connections.
It's wild how many words that these tribes have made up to describe these things. Like,
so it's not like a fringe thing, like random.
It's not just for fun. These hugely influenced the way they lived in their culture. Like, that's not easy to do.
No, and that's where like a lot of these stories, a lot of them are like origin stories or ancestral stories that like were so important that they told over and over and over again. You know, grandpa tells son, or dad tells son, he tells his kids, then his kids tell his kids, and it's this living culture and story of.
Well, if we have a solar flare that like wipes out tech, and then 15 years from now, a ship comes out of the sky. And it's like, hey, there's a huge asteroid coming. Like, you guys can't be this part of the world.
Right.
But we've set up this cavern here on the other side. Like, we go, you guys can be safe, but you have to stay down here for 100 years.
Yeah.
And then you go down there, of course, like, the tales of what used to be, like, will be forgotten over time. But that, like, story of being saved.
Or maybe a Stargate that's in a cave and we came, it wasn't underground per se, but it was...
Right.
Came from another planet.
But the perception of like
and
what
then
they
you walk out of a cave, and it's like
you walk in.
Later, you'd be like telling your grandkids, like, "Yeah, that's the cave we came out," and then they would tell their grandkids, we came."
But really,
from
that's
the
just
Earth.
the doorway. Where the doorway was.
Yeah,
right.
That's an interesting theory.
Hey, real quick, you guys were talking about Noah. I just looked up the word that they use, the oldest word that we use for ship for Noah, and it doesn't necessarily mean boat.
It's enterprise.
That's all I'm gonna say. Noah built a ship. Like, what if, dude, I just don't know. I don't know about anything you guys are saying, but what if it wasn't a boat?
Well, there's a theory when he describes the dimensions that he does, and then people are like, they tell you right there in the script. Like, we think
so
it's
Philly's
like...
already heard of this.
Oh, yeah.
We think it's the dimensions of, like, measurement, but that may be the dimension of whatever you put into to then go somewhere.
Yeah. Putting 2 of every animal into something, you've got to use some kind of interdimensional something.
So, and it says it in there, the dimensions. It's just like a fun...
Yeah, that is kind of fun. I will say it does make a lot of sense that maybe it was the DNA.
Yeah, I mean,
of
that's another
animals.
thing that they just store.
They Jurassic Parked it.
Yeah.
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 Essentially
For
that.
all
I like it. That's cool.
Nothing can go
Mr.
wrong.
DNA, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Okay. There's more. Choctaw in Mississippi say their people emerged from a sacred mound.
Yeah, all the mounds.
Naniwahi. I'm sorry, guys. Which they
apologize,
believe.
Choctaw.
I know. I'm sorry.
Donation.
You look at my skin. I'm as white as white gets.
Cherokee people.
Cherokee tribe.
They said, which they believe to be a portal to an underground world. It remains a sacred site today. The Inuit, which were in the Arctic, Inuit stories speak of a warm underground lands accessible through caves in the ice. These are inhabited by peaceful people who rarely interact with surface dwellers. There's the Shoshone in the Great Basin. Tales include a race of beings, sometimes giants, living in vast subterranean chambers in Utah or Nevada. Some connect these to the Lovelock Cave discoveries of red-haired mummies.
Red-haired, not just mummies. We've talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
Red-haired giants.
Red-haired giants that the Smithsonian stole.
Yeah.
And
Because they're probably
and then-
reptilian. I mean, dude, I used to think the whole reptilian blah, blah, blah was so dumb. And now I'm like, that would kind of make sense that there was like these
Oh, yeah.
factions fighting each other.
Well,
Well,
the thing is-
my favorite cartoon of all is Futurama, and they have like a space pope, and he's literally like
Space
a
pope.
reptilian, like he's an alligator, is a space pope.
No way.
Yeah, so the whole time it's like it's right in your
So
face.
it's like right in your face /
Yeah,
I also like, sidebar, I do love how like in shows, if it's in space, it's just like Space Pope.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like-
Yeah,
it's like-
yeah.
it's-
They make a joke about that later on.
Space
It's like
burrito.
sometimes it's hard to think of names
Names,
for everything.
But that also makes me. Oh, never mind. That thought left me. It just like escaped me just now. Two more. There's the Pawnee in Nebraska. In the Nebraska region, the Pawnee believe in underworld spirits governed by serpentine deities. These spirits could influence the physical world and were contacted through vision quests. Okay, and then you have the Ute, which is in Utah and Colorado. Legends tell of strange beings residing in the depths of the Rocky Mountains, some described as glowing or linked to strange sounds and vibrations,
Like skin somethings.
like skin some things that we're not going to talk about.
Yeah,
Because they're in Utah.
Yeah. Okay,
Well,
so
there's one, my son's always talked about the window watchers. And I think those might have been the skin somethings.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I don't like that.
okay, have you guys
Window
heard?
watchers.
Have you guys
It's
heard
a
of
labor legend, dude.
Have you guys heard of a guy named G. Warren Schufelt?
Uh-uh.
Okay, so G.
I
Warren.
heard he's a gangster, though.
No, dude, this story will make you think so.
Okay.
yeah, that's a different Warren G. But I like where you're going.
Okay.
I like where you're going.
I think somebody got my joke, but thank you, Philly.
Yeah, I didn't. That one went over my head. I'm sorry. Okay, so our good friend G. Warren Schufelt was a mining engineer and radio X-ray inventor.
Okay.
Okay, so in the year 1933, 1934, okay, he claims that he used a radio X-ray machine of his own invention to detect a vast network of underground tunnels, chambers, and a lost city filled with tablets of gold beneath Los Angeles. He believed the city was built by mysterious lizard people, an advanced race who were highly intelligent and sought refuge underground after a meteor cataclysm. Schufelt said the tunnels stretched for miles beneath the LA area, forming a lizard-shaped map, which is a tell at today's Pasadena body under downtown LA and head near Elysian Park. So Pasadena, LA, and Elysian Park.
Which is interesting if the lizard people are like headquartered there, that like they're so
Hollywood.
evil in LA.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
There's also another story that comes from I believe it's Schufelt, that with the same technology he also went out into the is it called the Sahara Desert? No, that's in Africa. Gosh, what is the desert in
Mojave?
in California?
The Mojave, I think, is like Arizona.
Yeah.
right?
Well, there's the something dead or
There's Glamis. That's a
All right, hold on. I'm gonna hurry and look
is
it
it
up
the one where
really
the
quick.
rocks slide around?
Hey, while he's looking that up,
the dead, not the Dead Sea. The
Oh, that's why I say it's like dead something like
Go
that.
ahead, Dylan.
during Prohibition, bootleggers found and utilized underground tunnels in Los Angeles that were just there, that led through the entirety of the under
And they were just like, oh, cool, how convenient.
well documented in journals. It says.
That's
Yeah.
so wild.
Yeah.
I was just thinking
Oh,
that's
come
so dumb. There's no tunnels, and then Dallas was like, oh no, there are. There's
Yeah,
tunnels.
there is.
Yeah. Okay, so
The whole tunnel thing has got me weirded out too. I remember when
Who
Fielding-
made them?
I remember when Fielding.
Tunnels
hold on.
aren't easy to make.
Do you remember?
Hold on,
when,
I got more.
Remember when we had the earthquake in Utah? Me and
Yeah.
Fielding were in lockdown together at where we worked, and then Fielding starts telling me that just was like a nuclear explosion that went off in tunnels between pedophiles and lizard people.
Yeah. They're called
That was too
DOMs,
fast. That was-
deep underground military bases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now guess who knows about DUMS? Mine
Everyone.
and Dallin's mom.
Good.
She
More
was telling
people
me
that
about it
know,
the
the
other
more
day.
our consciousness can wake up to it as
I will
humanity.
say that guy talked about we've spent, according to Hal Puthoff on Joe Rogan, $21 trillion on DUMS.
Good.
That's how much money we've spent.
Dude, that's insane. Okay, so get this. It's Death Valley National Park.
See, we were there.
That was Death
we were
Valley.
There. We were there.
We said Dead Sea, which is the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
It had dead in it, which is death.
Yeah.
So like
And it is where the rocks slide.
partial credit then, absolutely.
So he's also credited, I believe it's him, and if it's not, I'll put
Fix
the
it.
name in, I'll fix it in post. But there's a story of around that same time in the 1930s, 1940s of a man, I believe it was Schofield, who found a underground ancient city underneath Death Valley. Now, the Native Americans that were in and around that area talk about how that they would go and trade with these sky people that lived underground.
And that is one of the hottest places.
Yeah.
All the
in the
time.
United States, yeah, and in the world.
It would make sense that lizards would live under there.
So there's
It's hot.
Yeah.
Therefore, ipso facto, lizards.
lizards. True.
Yeah, dude, lock
Fact.
that down.
Okay. And so in this Death Valley area, this guy who was a miner, an excavator, ended up uncovering one of these tunnels and started exploring these tunnels. And it was like massive, huge. He said that it covered an area of like 20 square miles. Okay. And it was in and around the Death Valley National Park area.
Is Death Valley really that close to Las Vegas?
Yeah. I actually have spent a week in Pahrump right here, just on the west side.
I have a regional sales manager that lives in Pahrump.
The funny thing about Pahrump, little connection here with the Connect the Dots. That's really near where Art Bell would broadcast from.
I love that show.
Yeah, when he said he was in the high desert,
Yeah,
that
that's
was,
cool.
was where he was coming from.
Okay. Maybe he was a plant because, anyways, so the story goes,
Maybe he was a lizard plant.
continuing on, this area,
Okay.
and notice one of the names of the towns just south of Pahrump, Shoshone,
Lizardton. Oh.
Lizard Town.
Good guess.
Nice.
I was like, that'd be a giveaway.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little two on the head.
So he ends up exploring all this stuff. He finds, what he believes is an ancient city, but more technologically advanced than what we would have thought that was possible. So he ends up going out, and where do you think he goes to get help to excavate and explore this
know.
area?
The bad guys, the
Which
Smithsonian.
are the Smithsonian. Yep. So he reaches out to the Smithsonian.
Bad dudes.
Smithsonian sends an entire group of people down there, okay? And they start excavating and looking around and checking out kind of, what's going on there, what's happening, okay? And essentially what ends up taking place is
Bag gets put over his head.
he gets kicked off the site.
Oh, yeah, dude,
Okay?
of course. Yeah.
Not allowed to go in
He saw one
anymore.
of them molting, and they
The
crawled out of their own
US
skin.
The
Yeah.
U.S. military comes in, and now, to this day, it is actually marked off as military like a military zone. And if anybody knows that area north of Death Valley,
Oh no, this is where. What's his face was hiking?
yeah,
Oh, the M cave.
yeah,
The
with the
M
M
cave.
cave. What's his name? Well, I'll put it in post. But anyways,
Good.
this
connection,
is
Trav.
this is right around Desert National Wildlife Refuge, which is
No
kind of where
way.
he was hiking. Okay, and you know what's also interesting? Not too far from there, where is there an underground base that we're all very familiar with?
Yeah.
Nellis?
51.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and so the lot of that area by Area 51 is blocked off for, you know, training, bombing, you know, testing, all that kind of stuff. So essentially, this guy gets kicked
Shedding your
off.
skin.
Probably makes one of the most, you know, the biggest discoveries of all time, and no one ever hears about it. The guy gets labeled a kook. You know, he's making stuff up. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and he ends up like losing his job and goes crazy and all this kind of stuff. Okay, but
Another MO that
He
a lot of
goes
these people,
crazy.
yeah.
Kenny Beach.
Kenny Beach, yeah, and M Cave. We miss you, Kenny.
We did a whole episode on Kenny Beach, and we didn't know about this. I didn't know.
I didn't know about this either.
Type in Mercury test site.
Mercury test site. Oh,
It's in Vegas, right outside of Vegas.
Did you do the road there, Dylan?
Yes. And it goes all the way out to Death
okay.
Valley.
Hold on. So Vegas is okay.
Yeah, that's right over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, here's Pahrump, and
Dude, you'll see atomic bomb blasts out in that desert, by the way.
Oh
You
yeah,
can see
yeah.
them
If you
from
get on
there.
Google Earth and look around that
Yeah.
area, there's like crater after crater after crater out there from all the nukes that they blew up.
That seems like a crazy place to live.
Yeah, you ask some of the small towns on the
lot of-
west side of Utah that got radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
A lot of blackjack and poker dealers live there.
Yeah.
And they make really good money in Vegas, and it is not expensive to live in Pahrump. At least it wasn't.
I still think it's pretty
It always
inexpensive.
sounds like something an old man would say when you're like, I think that there's lizard people.
Pahrump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But really, he's telling you.
Look
Yeah,
at
you're
what
right.
is that? What are those road systems, grids, dude?
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff out there.
Lizard land.
Anyways, I'll come back to that off
Lizard
camera and I'll
cage.
tell you about that. But in closing,
Okay.
this is what I find super, super interesting. That you have ancient stories going back thousands of years, 1,000 years, 500 years, depending on, you know, which tribe we're talking about, that they're throughout the United States, Canada, all the way through Alaska, and they all have stories about sky people, ships coming in, people coming down from the skies, and giving them technology, helping them, saving them. And what I find interesting is that there's several tribes that talk about these ships came from the Palladius
They
constellation.
pick where they came from. Yeah.
Yeah,
even.
yeah, and that you have different tribes from all
Isn't
different
Orion?
areas.
Isn't Orion? They talk
Yeah.
about Orion.
Yeah,
a lot.
Orion and Pleiades.
And there's even African tribes that know about Orion and people
Right,
coming down there.
right. And then you have all these stories of underground beings or being taken underground to be saved, and then you have these stories of, you know, hey, there's an ancient, you know, underground city in the Grand Canyon. There's an ancient underground city in Los Angeles. There's an ancient underground city in, you know, the West Desert. And, you know, there's too many similarities and too many connections for some of these things to be just, oh, someone made up like a cool story. Like, to me, this is stuff that is leading towards potential facts and potential truth. So, yeah, I wanted to share that with you guys. I thought that was like super
it.
crazy, super fun, and super exciting. So, in remembrance of this amazing episode, you can go to our merch shop,
Sick.
and we have
Let's see it.
some actual cool t-shirts that are about these same things. We've got our lizard people t-shirt. We've got our Native American
Can you take
t-shirt.
us to it, Dan, and show
Yeah,
us?
yeah. Let me show all of our connectors all the cool stuff that we have going on our Connect the Dots website. Let me pull it back up
I'm
here.
getting you some
There
of
it
those
is.
Crocs for sure.
Yeah. So let me make this full screen and we'll move it over.
I shouldn't say Crocs.
So this,
Foam,
this is
relaxation
our
shoes.
new and upgraded merch shop that
Nice.
we're excited to show you guys. So this has all kinds of different fun things that we have been working on and creating. Let's go to some of our shirts, and I'll show you the shirts that we're talking about.
This
Check
app.
this one out here. Look at the flying silver boat. This is a fun t-shirt that we just dropped this weekend in preparation for this episode.
What's that one called?
This one is called, hold on, I just got out of the main screen here. Look at the flying silver boat.
Yeah.
We have our Area 51 Employee of the Month, Mr.
He's
Gray,
working hard.
one of our Ant People. Okay. Not to mention, you also have our Grand Canyon.
I want to go
is
deeper dive
Old
on this
Egypt.
one. This one's getting
Yeah,
getting
this
kinda
one's
fascinating.
actually really cool. So we've got some cool t-shirts, some cool merch. We've got everything from shirts. We have kids shirts. We've got jackets and hoodies. We have hats, footwear. Believe it or not, we have our own Connect the Dots. I guess
Shoes.
but what are they called?
Foam shoes.
Foam shoes. We can't call them the actual. What are they called?
Crocs.
Crocs. They're off-brand Crocs. We can't get actual
Croc
Crocs.
is fine
guys.
with it.
Come
I
on.
talk to them. They're cool.
Yeah, they're cool with it. Okay, and then we have some cool high-top Converse as well. And then we even have some accessories. We've got our own travel mugs, mouse pad, latest iPhone cases, and even an amazing bag that reminds you not to be a globetard. So, all kinds of fun merch. We want you guys to check that out. We're trying to keep the prices as low as possible so that we can get that out to you guys and not charge you, $30-35 for a t-shirt. Trying to keep that as low as possible, but it also will help the podcast and help us get, more merch or more stuff, keep bringing cool content and fun things. So, in closing, I think there's some important things that we need to mention. Okay. First and foremost, if I can find it, okay. Thanks for tuning in to Connect the Dots, you guys. And like, subscribe, get some merch from our merch shop, conthedot.com, which I think there's some cool stuff. We're actually gonna put in an order ourselves and start getting us some merch that we can show off on the actual podcast. Okay. Keep exploring. And until next time, stay connected. Don't forget, as always, you right there, you're a champion. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Adios.
Mythology.